The moment a woman hurts you, everything changes. Not just how you see her, but how you see yourself. Because now you're stuck between two battles. One part of you wants to hold on. The other part of you knows something isn't right. And if you don't handle this properly, you won't just lose her. You'll lose your self-respect. That's why you need to understand this clearly. When a woman hurts you, your reaction matters more than what she did. Because that reaction determines whether you rise or you fall. Before we go deeper, make sure you subscribe to this channel. This is where you learn how to think clearly, move smart, and take control of your life. Now listen carefully. The first thing you need to understand is this. Pain reveals your level. Not your words. Not your intentions. Not your feelings. Your reaction. That's what shows who you really are. When she hurts you, most men react emotionally. They start overthinking. They start chasing explanations. They start begging for clarity. They want closure. They want answers. They want peace. But in doing that, they lose power. Because the moment you start chasing someone who hurt you, you're telling them something without saying it. You're telling them you're willing to accept less than you deserve. And once that message is sent, it's hard to take it back. Now understand this. A woman who hurts you is watching how you respond. Not just what you say, but how you carry yourself after. Does he lose control? Does he become desperate? Does he start acting out of character? Or does he stay composed? Does he stay calm? Does he stay grounded? Because that tells her everything. And it should tell you something too. The biggest mistake you can make is trying to fix everything immediately. You want to talk it out. You want to resolve it. You want to understand what happened. But sometimes, the situation doesn't need conversation. It needs observation. Because not everything deserves your words. Some things deserve your silence. And silence is powerful. When used correctly, it creates space. It creates reflection. It creates clarity. Not just for her, but for you. Now let's be real. Not every woman who hurts you is evil. Sometimes she's confused. Sometimes she's immature. Sometimes she's simply not aligned with you. But none of that changes one thing. You got hurt. And that matters. What matters even more is what you do next. You need to learn how to step back without losing yourself. That means you don't chase. You don't beg. You don't try to force understanding. You step back. And you observe. You ask yourself real questions. Is this behavior something I can accept? Is this someone who respects me? Is this someone who adds peace to my life? Or chaos? Because love without respect is a trap. And many men stay trapped because they focus on feelings instead of reality. Here's something most people won't tell you. When someone hurts you repeatedly, it's no longer a mistake. It's a pattern. And patterns reveal intention. Not words. Not promises. Patterns. If she apologizes but repeats the same behavior, nothing has changed. If she explains but doesn't improve, nothing has changed. And if nothing changes, you need to change your position. Another mistake men make is trying to prove their worth after being hurt. They become more available, more attentive, more forgiving, thinking it will fix things. But it does the opposite. Because when you reward bad behavior with more effort, you teach her that hurting you has no consequences. And people don't respect what comes easy. They respect what has boundaries. let's talk about boundaries. Because this is where most men fail. Not because they don't have boundaries, but because they don't enforce them. A boundary is not what you say. It's what you do when that line is crossed. If she disrespects you and you stay, that's not a boundary. If she hurts you and you keep giving chances without change, that's not a boundary. That's tolerance. And too much tolerance leads to disrespect. Now imagine this instead. She hurts you. You don't react emotionally. You don't chase. You don't argue. You step back. You reduce your availability. You focus on yourself. You let your actions speak. Now something shifts. Because now she sees something different. She sees that you value yourself. And that changes how she sees you. But more importantly, it changes how you see yourself. Let's go deeper. Because sometimes the hardest part is letting go. Not because you don't know what to do, but because you're attached. You remember the good moments, the connection, the potential, and you hold on to that, hoping things will go back to how they were. But here's the truth. You're not dealing with potential. You're dealing with reality. And reality is what matters. Not what she could be. Not what she promised. But what she consistently shows you. Healing doesn't come from holding on. It comes from letting go of what no longer serves you. That doesn't mean you stop caring instantly. That doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. It means you choose yourself, despite the pain. And that is strength. Now understand this clearly. Walking away is not weakness. It's control. It's discipline. It's self-respect in action. Because not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone deserves your time, your energy, your presence. And once you understand that, you stop settling. Another thing you must avoid is revenge. Trying to hurt her back. Trying to make her feel what you felt. That path leads nowhere. Because now you're reacting instead of leading. And when you react emotionally, you lose direction. The real power is in moving forward. Improving yourself. Building yourself. Becoming someone who doesn't tolerate disrespect. That's the real response. Now let's talk about growth. Because every painful experience has a lesson. And if you don't learn it, you repeat it. So ask yourself, what did this situation teach me? Did I ignore red flags? Did I move too fast? Did I invest too much too early? Did I compromise my standards? Because growth comes from honesty, not blame. At this point, you should understand something. Handling a woman who hurts you is not about controlling her. It's about controlling yourself, your emotions, your reactions, your decisions. Because that's where your power is. Not in changing her, but in choosing your response. If you've gotten value from this, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Because this is where you learn how to move smarter, think deeper, and build real confidence. Now remember this. You can't control how people treat you, but you can control what you accept. And that decision will define your life. So choose wisely. Choose self-respect. Choose growth. Choose peace. Because the moment you do that, everything starts to change. There's something you need to understand at a deeper level. Sometimes the pain you feel is not just about what she did. It's about what you expected from her. Because when expectations are high, disappointment hits harder. You believed she wouldn't do that. You trusted her. You opened up. You allowed yourself to be vulnerable. And when that gets broken, it doesn't just hurt emotionally. It affects your mindset. It makes you question things. Your judgment. Your decisions. Even your worth. But you need to separate something clearly. What she did is not your identity. It's an experience. And experiences are meant to teach you, not define you. Now let's go into something most people avoid. Accountability. Not for what she did, but for what you allowed. Because growth starts when you stop asking only, "Why did she do this?" and start asking, "Why did I tolerate this?" That question is powerful. Because it shifts control back to you. It forces you to reflect. To see patterns. To recognize where you ignored signs. Where you compromised. Where you settled. And this is not about blaming yourself. It's about empowering yourself. Because once you understand your patterns, you can break them. Let's talk about emotional control. Because this is where everything either builds or collapses. When you're hurt, your emotions will try to take over. You'll feel anger. You'll feel sadness. You'll feel the urge to react. To send that message. To make that call. To say something you might regret later. And in that moment, you have two choices. React or respond. Reacting is instant. Emotional. Uncontrolled. Responding is calm. Measured. Intentional. And the difference between those two determines everything. Strong men are not those who don't feel pain. They are the ones who don't let pain control their actions. Because once your emotions control you, you lose direction. You say things you shouldn't say. You do things you shouldn't do. And later, you regret it. That's why control is everything. Not suppression. Control. Understanding what you feel, but choosing how you act. Now let's address something important. Closure. Most people think they need closure to move on. They think they need one last conversation. One last explanation. One last moment of clarity. But the truth is, closure is not something she gives you. It's something you create. Because sometimes, you won't get answers. Sometimes, things won't make sense. Sometimes, the ending won't feel complete. And if you wait for closure from someone who hurt you, you might wait forever. So instead, you decide. You accept what happened. You take the lesson. And you move forward. That's closure. Let's go deeper into detachment. Because this is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop losing yourself. It means you don't let someone else's actions control your emotions, your focus, your peace. When you're attached, everything they do affects you. Their messages. Their silence. Their behavior. It controls your mood. Your thoughts. Your energy. But when you detach, you take that control back. You observe instead of reacting. You evaluate instead of chasing. You move with clarity instead of emotion. And that changes everything. Now imagine this. Instead of constantly thinking about her, you start focusing on yourself, your goals, your growth, your purpose. You invest your energy into something productive, something meaningful, something that builds you. Now your mindset shifts. Your confidence grows. Your value increases. And suddenly, you're not the same person who got hurt. You're stronger, sharper, more aware. Another thing you must understand is this. Silence reveals truth. When you stop chasing, you see things clearly. You see who reaches out. You see who makes effort. You see who values you. Because effort is not something people struggle with. They make effort for what matters to them. So if someone is inconsistent with you, that inconsistency is your answer. Let's talk about self-respect again. Because everything comes back to this. Self-respect is not something you say. It's something you demonstrate. Through your actions. Through your decisions. Through what you tolerate, and what you walk away from. If you keep allowing disrespect, you slowly lose yourself. But when you stand firm, when you choose yourself, you build something powerful, inner strength. And that strength reflects outward. People see it. People feel it. And they treat you differently because of it. Now here's a hard truth. Not everyone you love is meant to stay in your life. Some people come as lessons, not as long-term partners. And the sooner you accept that, the easier it becomes to let go. Because you stop trying to force what isn't working. You stop trying to fix what isn't meant to be fixed. And you start moving forward. Let's talk about moving on. Because many people misunderstand this. Moving on is not about forgetting. It's not about pretending it never happened. It's about accepting it, and choosing not to stay stuck in it. It's about releasing emotional attachment, little by little. It's about rebuilding yourself, your mindset, your confidence, your identity. And that takes time. But it's worth it. Now think about this. What kind of man do you want to be? The one who gets hurt and loses himself? Or the one who gets hurt and evolves? Because pain can either break you or build you. And that choice is yours. At this stage, you should start seeing something clearly. This situation is not just about her. It's about you. Your standards, your boundaries, your mindset, your growth. Because how you handle this will affect how you handle everything else in life. Now let's go even deeper. Because there's one more layer to this. And that is self-worth. If you don't truly value yourself, you will accept less than you deserve. You will tolerate behavior you shouldn't tolerate. You will stay in situations that drain you. But when you understand your value, everything changes. You become selective. You become intentional. You stop settling. Because you know what you bring to the table. And you're not afraid to walk away if it's not respected. This is where real power comes from. Not from controlling others, but from controlling access to you. Who gets your time? Who gets your attention? Who gets your energy? Because those things are valuable. And not everyone deserves them. If you've been through this, understand something. You're not alone. Everyone experiences pain at some point. But not everyone grows from it. Some people stay stuck. Repeating the same patterns, making the same mistakes. But you don't have to be one of them. This is your opportunity to become better, stronger, wiser, more aware. Because every difficult situation carries a lesson. And once you learn that lesson, you level up. So from this moment forward, make a decision. You will not chase disrespect. You will not tolerate inconsistency. You will not lose yourself trying to keep someone. You will choose peace over confusion, clarity over chaos, growth over comfort. And most importantly, you will choose yourself. If you've made it this far, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Because this is where you transform your mindset, build real confidence, and take control of your life. Now remember this. The way people treat you is important, but the way you respond is everything. So respond with strength. Respond with clarity. Respond with self-respect. And watch how your life begins to change. Say less. Observe more. Move smarter. And never forget your value. There's another level to this that most people never reach. And that is emotional independence. Because as long as your emotions depend on how someone treats you, you will always be vulnerable. When she's good to you, you feel good. When she pulls away, you feel anxious. When she hurts you, you feel broken. That's dependency. And dependency creates instability. But when you become emotionally independent, something changes. You still feel. You still care. But you are not controlled. Your peace doesn't disappear because someone acts differently. Your focus doesn't shift because someone pulls back. You remain steady, grounded, centered. And that level of stability is rare. Now understand this clearly. People respect stability. They are drawn to it. Because most people are emotionally unpredictable. They react quickly. They get overwhelmed easily. They let situations control them. So when you are the opposite, when you stay calm under pressure, when you don't overreact, when you don't lose yourself, you stand out without even trying. Let's talk about emotional triggers. Because when a woman hurts you, she often triggers something deeper. It's not just about her actions. It's about what those actions represent to you. Maybe it triggers fear of abandonment. Maybe it triggers insecurity. Maybe it brings back past experiences. And that's why the pain feels intense. But here's what you need to do. Instead of just reacting to the situation, understand the trigger. Ask yourself, why did this affect me so deeply? What exactly am I feeling? Because once you understand the root, you gain control. And when you gain control, you stop reacting blindly. Now let's go into something powerful. Scarcity versus abundance mindset. When a woman hurts you, and you feel like you can't lose her, that's scarcity. You feel like she's the only one. You feel like you won't find better. You feel like you need to fix things at all costs. And that mindset traps you. It keeps you stuck in situations that don't serve you. But when you operate from abundance, everything changes. You understand that there are many opportunities, many people, many possibilities. You don't cling. You don't chase. You choose. And that shift is powerful. Now imagine this version of yourself. You get hurt. You take a step back. You reflect. You grow. You improve. You become stronger. Now when you enter your next situation, you're not the same person. You're more aware, more selective, more in control. That's how growth works. It builds on itself. Let's address communication. Because sometimes you will need to speak. But when you do, it must be different. Not emotional. Not reactive. Not desperate. Clear. Calm. Direct. You don't need long explanations. You don't need to overexpress. You simply state your position. What you accept. What you don't accept. And you leave it there. Because real communication is not about convincing. It's about expressing and observing. Now here's something important. If she truly values you, she will adjust. She will reflect. She will make an effort. But if she doesn't, that's your answer. And you need to accept it. Without forcing. Without chasing. Without losing yourself. Another mistake many men make is ignoring intuition. You feel something is off, but you ignore it. You see signs, but you explain them away. You sense inconsistency, but you give excuses. And later, it becomes clear. Your intuition was right. That's why you need to trust it. Because it picks up things your mind tries to ignore. And when something feels wrong repeatedly, it usually is. Let's go deeper into respect. Because everything revolves around this. Attraction can fade. Feelings can change. But respect, that's what sustains everything. If she doesn't respect you, nothing else will work. Not your effort. Not your love. Not your patience. Because without respect, everything becomes unstable. And once respect is lost, it's very hard to regain. That's why you protect it. At all costs. Now understand this. Respect starts with you. How you carry yourself. How you respond. What you tolerate. What you walk away from. Because people learn how to treat you by watching you. Let's talk about time. Because time reveals everything. When you're in the moment, emotions are high. Thoughts are scattered. Everything feels intense. But with time, clarity comes. You start seeing things differently. You understand what happened. You see patterns. You gain perspective. That's why patience is important. Don't rush decisions when emotions are high. Step back. Give it time. Let clarity come to you. Now here's something powerful. Rebuilding yourself. Because after being hurt, you have two options. Stay the same. Or upgrade. You can take this experience and use it as fuel to become better, stronger, more disciplined, more focused, more valuable. Because pain is energy, and that energy can either destroy you or build you. So channel it into your goals, into your growth, into your purpose. Turn that pain into progress. And over time, you won't just recover. You'll transform. Let's go into identity. Because this is where everything changes. You need to become someone who doesn't tolerate disrespect. Not just say it. Become it. Someone who walks away when necessary. Someone who values peace. Someone who prioritizes growth. Someone who doesn't chase validation. Because once that becomes your identity, your life changes automatically. Your choices change. Your standards change. Your results change. Now think about this. What you accept today becomes your reality tomorrow. So if you accept disrespect today, you experience more of it later. But if you reject it, if you stand firm, if you choose yourself, you create a different reality. At this point, everything should be clear. Handling a woman who hurts you is not about her. It's about you. Your mindset, your discipline, your standards, your growth. Because that's what you control. And once you master that, nothing can shake you easily. Not rejection. Not disappointment. Not emotional pain. Because now you're built differently. If you've been getting value from this, make sure you subscribe to this channel, because this is where you learn how to become mentally strong, emotionally intelligent, and impossible to break. Now remember this. You don't lose when someone walks away from you. You lose when you lose yourself trying to keep them. So never make that mistake. Choose yourself. Build yourself. Respect yourself. And everything else will fall into place. There's a stage most people don't talk about. And that is the silence after the pain. When everything settles. No more arguments. No more long messages. No more trying to fix things. Just silence. And in that silence, your mind becomes loud. You start replaying everything. What she said. What you said. What you could have done differently. You go over the same moments again and again, trying to find a different ending. But here's the truth. Overthinking doesn't change the past. It only drains your present. Because the more you replay it, the more you stay stuck in it. That's why you need to learn how to let thoughts pass without attaching to them. Now let's talk about mental discipline. Because this is where you take real control. Your mind will try to pull you back. It will remind you of the good moments. It will make you miss her. It will try to convince you to reach out. But not every thought deserves action. Some thoughts are just habits. Patterns your mind is used to. And if you follow every thought, you lose control. But when you observe your thoughts, without acting on them, you build strength. Real strength. Now imagine this. You feel the urge to text her. But instead of reacting, you pause. You breathe. You let the feeling pass. And you move on. That moment right there. That is growth. Because you didn't act out of emotion. You acted out of control. And the more you do that, the stronger you become. Let's go into something deeper. Emotional withdrawal. When a woman hurts you, sometimes the best move is not confrontation. It's withdrawal. Not as a game. Not as manipulation. But as protection. You reduce access. You reduce attention. You reduce emotional investment. Because you don't give full access to someone who misuses it. And this is not about punishing her. It's about respecting yourself. Now understand this clearly. Access to you is earned, not given freely. Your time, your attention, your energy, those are valuable. And when someone shows they don't value it, you don't argue. You adjust. Let's talk about attraction again. Because many people get this wrong. They think being overly nice, overly available, overly forgiving will fix things. But attraction doesn't grow from that. It grows from respect, from strength, from self-control, from knowing your worth. So when you stand firm, when you don't tolerate nonsense, when you remain composed, you don't lose value. You increase it. Now here's something important. Not every situation needs to be saved. Some situations need to end. And knowing the difference is wisdom. Because holding on to something broken doesn't fix it. It only prolongs the damage. Let's go deeper into detachment again. Because this is where real freedom is. When you detach, you stop needing things to go a certain way. You stop forcing outcomes. You stop trying to control everything. And instead, you allow things to reveal themselves. And when you do that, you see the truth faster. Now think about this. If you have to constantly question someone's behavior, constantly doubt their intentions, constantly feel uneasy, that's not peace. And anything that disturbs your peace consistently is not meant for you. Let's talk about rebuilding confidence. Because getting hurt can shake you. It can make you doubt yourself, your decisions, your judgment. But confidence is not something you wait to feel. It's something you build through action. Small wins, daily discipline, keeping promises to yourself, doing what you said you would do. That's how you rebuild it. So focus on yourself, your routine, your habits, your goals. Because the more you build yourself, the less you depend on others for validation. Now let's address something real. Loneliness. Because when you step back, when you detach, when you walk away, there will be moments where you feel alone. And that's normal. But don't confuse loneliness with loss. Sometimes, being alone is where you grow the most. Where you understand yourself. Where you rebuild yourself. Where you become stronger. And over time, that loneliness turns into peace. Because now you're not surrounded by confusion. You're not dealing with emotional instability. You're not chasing clarity. You have it. Now here's something powerful. Standards. Because once you go through this, your standards should rise, not lower. You should become more selective, more aware, more intentional. Because experience is meant to upgrade you, not weaken you. So don't go back to the same patterns. Don't ignore red flags again. Don't settle again. Because if you don't change your standards, you repeat your experiences. Let's go into emotional strength. Because this is the final layer. Emotional strength is not about being cold. It's about being in control. You can care without losing yourself. You can feel without being overwhelmed. You can connect without becoming dependent. And that balance is powerful. Now imagine the man you become after this. Calm, focused, disciplined, self-aware, not easily shaken, not easily manipulated, not easily distracted. That is the level you're building towards. And once you reach that level, everything changes. How you think, how you move, how people see you, how people treat you. If you've made it this far, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Because this is where you build that level of mindset and become a man who cannot be easily broken. Now remember this. Pain is temporary. Growth is permanent. So don't waste the pain. Use it. Let it shape you. Let it strengthen you. Let it elevate you. Because at the end of the day, this was never just about her. It was about who you become after her. And that is what truly matters. At the end of everything. After the pain. After the confusion. After the questions. There's one thing that remains. You. And who you choose to become. Because moments like this, they define you. Not when everything is easy. Not when everything is going well. But when things fall apart. That's when your real character shows. That's when your real strength is tested. And that's when you make a decision. Stay the same. Or evolve. Now think about the man you were before this happened. Maybe you were more trusting. More open. Maybe you ignored certain things. Maybe you gave chances too easily. Now think about the man you are becoming. More aware, more disciplined, more selective, more in control. That's growth. And growth always comes at a cost. You had to feel the pain to understand the lesson. You had to go through the confusion to gain clarity. You had to experience the hurt to discover your strength. And now, you're not the same person anymore. So don't go backwards. Don't return to what broke you. Don't lower your standards just to feel comfortable again. Because comfort is what kept you stuck. Growth is what sets you free. There will be moments where you think about reaching out again, where you miss the connection, where you remember the good times. And that's normal. But don't let temporary emotions make permanent mistakes. Because every time you go back to something that hurt you, you restart the cycle, and the pain repeats. Instead, move forward. Even when it's uncomfortable. Even when it's hard. Even when it feels unfamiliar. Because everything you want is on the other side of that growth. Now understand this clearly. You didn't lose her. You lost what wasn't aligned with you. And that's not a loss. That's redirection. Life is not taking something away from you. It's making space for something better. But that only happens if you let go of what no longer serves you. So let go. Not out of anger. Not out of pride. But out of understanding. Understanding that your peace matters. Your growth matters. Your future matters. Because the right person will not constantly put you in a position where you have to question your worth. The right person will not repeatedly hurt you and expect you to stay the same. The right person will align with your standards, not challenge your self-respect. And until that person comes, you become that person for yourself. You become your own source of strength, your own source of validation, your own source of peace. That's when everything changes. Because now you're not looking for someone to complete you. You're already complete. And anyone who comes into your life is an addition, not a necessity. This is the level you need to reach. This is the mindset you need to build. This is the standard you need to live by. So from today, make a decision. No more chasing. No more tolerating disrespect. No more losing yourself for someone else. From today, you move differently. You think differently. You act differently. You choose self-respect over attachment. You choose clarity over confusion. You choose growth over comfort. And most importantly, you choose yourself. Every single time. If this message hit you, if you felt this, if you know you needed to hear this, then don't just watch and move on. Subscribe to this channel right now. Because this is where you rebuild yourself. This is where you sharpen your mindset. This is where you become stronger, smarter, and impossible to break. And if you're serious about changing your life, make sure you stay connected. More videos like this are coming. More lessons. More growth. More truth. Drop a comment and let me know what part of this message stood out to you the most. Because your journey matters. And your growth starts with awareness. Remember this. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become after it. So rise. Refocus. Rebuild.